All right, welcome to the Nailed Pitch. My name is Carl Ponto. Sorry for the late start. We had a few technical issues, but the whole point of this show is to talk about what founders can do to increase their chances of being successful when trying to raise funding and better explain the value of their business to potential investors. Very excited to have Garrett McCain with me as my special guest. He is working in the investment space. He is a investor relations associate at 46 Venture Capital. Garrett, thank you so much for being on the show.
Carl, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks. Yeah. So it's been very interesting the last few months how much the startup world has changed when it comes to trying to get funding and what the kind of bar for entry is now to get investors to write a check or kind of even respond favorably to a pitch. So what are some of the trends you've seen and where do you think things are going for the next few months?
Yeah, no, it has been a super interesting time. My role on the capital raising side is kind of having a good pulse on the capital markets, what's going on in a macro lens, but also in a micro lens. And I think it's kind of a catch-22, the situation we're in right now. The last, call it 8 to 12 to 16 months, people have been a little bit more reserved with their capital just because of the overall economic status of the world we live in. But also on the flip side, people who have had capital kind of see it as advantageous because business valuations are down a little bit right now. So they see it as coming in at a better time. So you kind of get two sides of the coin. You get people who are excited to deploy capital and get their money working for them and things outside of the public sector, and to invest in some of these startups and these founders. And then you also get people who want to hoard some cash a little bit and want to wait to kind of see how things play out the next 12 to 18 months, following some of this unsteadiness. So it's a matter of kind of managing those expectations and letting people know that, while we don't know what the future is going to hold, all we can do is play in the now. And at 46, the venture firm that I work for in Tulsa, we're seeing great deals, we're seeing great companies, and we have plenty of reasons to deploy capital. So it's just a matter of relaying to our potential LPs what we're seeing, what we believe, and getting them to believe the same thing.
Yeah, it's interesting how the mood has shifted the last few months and just how easy it is to get capital versus how conservative and careful investors are being. So if a founder is just trying to get funding these days, what are some of the things you say you're investing in some founders you're coming, what is it that makes them stand out that you go, okay, this is one we're actually going to want to do the due diligence and go further with?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I would classify it more art than science. And what I mean by that is there's plenty of great ideas out there that need funding and get funding. There's plenty of average ideas out there that get funding as well. And there's plenty of great ideas out there that don't get funding at all, that they kind of die on the vine, if you will. And I think the explanation, if you will, behind that, more times than not comes down to, is the founder or is the team, are they able to execute? Are they able to grow? Are they able to scale? And do we as investors see a clear path to exit in what it is that they're building? And a lot of times that is ultimately the deciding factor on if we're going to pursue something from an investment standpoint or not. Is this founder somebody that would believes in their product or believes in their service or believes in their platform? Do they have the right team members around them? And if not, are they open to bringing in the right team members? Somebody may be really good at platform, but they're terrible at sales. Yeah. Or they may be really good at building relationships, but they have no technical savvy. So are they open to bringing in the right people to make their product, their service successful? And then the last thing is, do they have the mental makeup of what it takes to arguably eat crow for the first couple of years while they're going through that tough phase? Are they willing to go run through a wall for their business and for their team, for their organization? Have they dealt with failure? How did they deal with that failure? Is this their second, their third, their fourth startup? Those ultimately are the things that we look at, because plenty of ideas come across our desk as a venture firm, and some of them are great, some of them aren't. But at the end of the day, if the founder has the ability to execute, and we as a firm see that exit potential, we'll take a good long hard look.
Yeah, it's does really valuable stuff for people that are watching that are in the founder space and wondering what they can do to get that attention from you guys and really stand out. So what are the ways you've seen people communicate that well during the deck? Is there a certain kind of structure to the presentation you like to see, or are there certain things that they do that or really tell you this is a good sign that we should pay attention?
Yeah, no, to be totally transparent, a deck that is presented well, that is organized well, that has a clear-cut message is obviously valuable, because that is going to be the first thing that we intake and we kind of sift through. But a lot of times when we sit down with these founders, we'll scratch the surface of their idea, but more so we're wanting to be sold on them. Now, it's not a fake it till you make it type sell, right? Because we can kind of sniff through that. We want to know, what are your pain points? What are the things that your organization's feeling that is going to make you successful or might break you? Because while we inject capital, we're capital providers, we're also resource providers. So we want to back somebody who believes in themselves, who we believe in, but then we also see an ability to potentially add some resources and create some value for these founders. So a lot of these meetings that we take, we really don't even get into the pitch deck a ton. It caught our attention. We saw it. We liked it. Now we're going to do our due diligence on them, because if we're taking a meeting, in the example is we'll see over 500 deals in a year in our fund. We're currently raising our fund right now. It's going to invest in 18 to 20. So we're picking the best of the best from the deal flow that we get. If we're sitting down with a meeting with you, you've piqued our interest. We're already interested in your product, interested in your service, your platform, whatever it is. We more so want to be interested in you as a founder as well, because we want to be able to provide financial resource. We want to be able to provide client resource, whatever it is that, because as soon as we invest capital into you, we're now playing on the same team. We're thinking on behalf of you. We're also thinking on behalf of our investors. And we have an obligation to both to be successful. High tide raises all ships. So that's what we look at whenever we sit down across from a founder and talk about, hey, what is your ask? What are the things that you're going to need for this company to be successful? And where do we see ourselves fitting in that? And do we see this capital that we're going to inject as a possible solution to some of these answers?
Yeah, it's interesting that it's less about the deck and like the company, more about the individuals that you're caring about. I think so often people, when they're preparing for a fundraise, they often even don't even focus on those. They focus on the product more than anything else. And that part's not even really like set in stone yet. It's super malleable, but you really need to know about who the founders are and why they do what they do and what makes them the right people.
And hearing their story, everybody has something that they're passionate about, whether it be what it is that they're building, or somehow something that created them and molded them into the person that they are today. And anybody can go get into a financial model. Anybody can go get into the weeds. Anybody can go look over a slide deck or a pitch deck. We want to know what makes you, what makes you tick. And if we like that, if that's something backable, if that's something that we see as a large runway or a large ramp to, like I said, a potential exit, well, then we can go get caught up in the model that's probably going to be wrong anyway, because you're a founder, you're a startup, and who knows what the next 2 years is going to be like. So yeah, it's one of those things that, like, am I saying to just totally pitch the pitch deck and totally get away with it and don't put any time into it? No, not at all, because that's kind of the first line of defense. And that's the first thing that we look at. And ultimately we may come back to it and have questions or whatever. So it needs to be of value, but ultimately we're not deciding, hey, this is a backable founder or not, just because of the 15 slideshow presentation they put together.
Yeah. So it sounds like you say you see like a 500 or so like pitches in a year and you pick 20. So is it, you're
Correct.
saying that, let's do this math here, only 1 out of 25 founders has the right story?
Yeah, so that's a great point. And to be totally honest, some of those 500, some of them may just not be on thesis for us.
Yeah.
So of the 500, I would say it gets whittled down in half to call it 250. But then yeah, that point's spot on. Whatever it is, it may be something, it may be the product sucks and it's not a investable product. It may be that we don't see them as the right operator, and they're not willing to make adjustments in the operation team. It may be something to where it's a great product, but there's only this much room to grow, and we want this much room to grow. So yeah, of the 500, I'd say about 250 of them, 200 of them fit exactly what you just said.
That's quite a big room for improvement there when it comes to the skill set of founders. Um, what do you think why do you think there's such a huge disparity? Like, I'm blank on the term now, but disparaging, a big gap between what you're looking for and what founders come with. Why? Where? Because it seems like there's a lot of funds, there's a lot of these pitch events, and there's a lot of like solutions out there, but it still seems like so many people just don't understand or don't realize this is what they need to do. Why do you think there's that huge
Yeah.
gap?
Well, I think, and it makes sense to an extent, right? You want to talk about how great your idea is. You want to talk about how much money that you're going to generate. You want to talk about what your TAM is and all those buzzwords that get thrown around, that logically would be appealing to somebody potentially investing capital into you as a founder. But those aren't the things, in our opinion, that sell us on a potential founder. Like I said, your projections are probably going to be wrong. Your TAM isn't really what your actual TAM is. Your 5-year revenue isn't probably what your 5-year revenue is going to be. So, I mean, if we got caught up in all the numbers, we would just be throwing money everywhere because everybody has great numbers when they're coming to us. That's why we kind of focus rather on, if your numbers are great. But if you're great and if you're able to verbalize that and show us that, hey, I'm going to run through this wall for this company. I'm backable, not because of my product, but because of who I am, the way that I'm wired, the way that I think, the skill sets that I have, then that becomes a lot more interesting of an investment for us as a VC firm, because we're getting a founder that may have a great idea, but we're also getting a good, solid, backable person that is ultimately going to do everything they can to make their company successful. Because again, like I mentioned, we have a responsibility to our investors to, the way that our firm is structured, we're a traditional VC firm in the sense of we're purely return driven. We're out to make the greatest return for our investors as possible. And money is a very emotional thing. When our investors entrust us with their money, they trust us to go make great decisions and to generate those returns. And so if we're just spraying money at the biggest TAM or doing different things that theoretically would be attractive, and we're missing out on those returns, we're going to lose our credibility. Therefore, we're going to lose our investors, and it becomes a domino effect. So we focus on the people that we're backing, and that starts with being able to verbalize why you as a founder should be a backable founder.
So why do you think that so many founders don't understand that that's what VCs are looking for? Is that story, that personal touch?
Just lack of knowledge, I would say. Just lack of understanding that that's the way that some VCs operate, and lack of resources. A lot of founders may not know how to verbalize that, may not know the proper channels or the proper ways to verbalize their experiences or verbalize their intangible skill sets. So it's, I would assume that probably part of it's just a lack of know-how or a hesitation on, well, if I say this or this, am I saying it the right way or am I phrasing it the right way? How do I integrate that into my pitch? How do I, whatever it may be. And it's not the traditional way of thinking, I would say. You would think that, oh, I need to show them why my product's so good and how much money I can make them. That's great, but we also want to know that we're getting a quality person as well.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying, that it makes sense that you would look at the quality of the character and the integrity of the people that you're going to be investing in, because you can fix the product, you can like adjust the go-to-market strategy, but you can't fix the founder if they don't have the right like integrity, the right mindset, the right connection to the product they're in the business they're building. Then there's nothing you can do about that, and you're not going to be able to, like I said, you can suggest have like filling in their team some, but you can't change who the founder is, and so that's kind of the one fixed thing when you decide who you're going with, is the founding main person. So yeah, it's interesting because it baffles me how I go to a lot of these pitch events and I see a lot of people present and they talk about there's all these things that like even saying that aren't that important to you, and they go way in the weeds on like the tech and their like this tech stack and their features and stuff. Right. You can tell they really are excited about, but it's like, and then but then when you show them or explain to them that it's the other things are more important, it's like they don't get it, they're not willing to like put the work in to tell the story properly. It's like, this is what people are saying they want to hear from you, so focus on that more.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, and obviously I'm giving the condensed version of what our investment criteria process is, but that's me, as well as the other members on our team and our investment committee, we're not experts in every area that we're going to invest in. So getting off into the weeds of why your product is so great arguably doesn't do us any good in terms of the time that we've allotted to whatever this pitch is, because if we like it, again, we're just going to go take it to the subject matter expert that we have relationships with and say, okay, poke holes in this. Is this a good platform? Is this a good service? Is this a good product? Yeah. And, again, you can theoretically spend as much time on that stuff as you want. It doesn't matter if it's great or if it's not so great. We're going to go take it to a subject expert. They're going to tell us their opinion on it, the people that we know and we trust. So from our perspective, we would rather get to know the person, because when we have a great person with a great idea, or even a great person with an okay idea, there's something we can do with that.
Yeah, I feel like that what you just said there needs to be required learning for all founders when they first go to like start their business. It's like, okay, you're planning on going for funding, here's what you need to know. Like, don't forget this thing. You're going to want to talk about all the things that you're excited about, but understand that the person across from you is not caring about that stuff yet. They want to know about you. And it's
Yep. There's a time, there's a place, trust me, we'll get into the weeds when we do our due diligence, whether it be with you, whether it be with subject matter experts, whether it be with your friends and family. I mean, we do extensive research on the companies that we're going to back. The first phase of that research is making sure that you as a founder are a backable founder. And it starts with being able to verbalize and relay who it is you are, what it is that you believe in, and why you think that you're going to be successful, arguably regardless of the product. We want successful people. If they have a successful product, that's even better.
Yeah. It's like, that's the added bonus to the relationships you're building with the people is, oh yeah, they come with a great idea, a great product. But if it's a great product, but they're not the right people, that's not going to be a green light for you guys, because it's not just a transaction you're going for. This is building a relationship as a long-term commitment, and you don't want to be like connected with people that aren't a good fit for for your network and your
Spot on.
business.
Spot on. Yeah. Well, because it does. It becomes a marriage almost, if you will. Because like I
Yeah.
said, we don't just invest financial capital. We invest our personal capital and our resources and the connections we make and the people that we introduce them to. I mean, you become a part of our network as soon as you become a company that we take an interest in. And we pride ourselves on our reputation, and we make introductions based off of people that we know and that we trust. And we want to know that the person that we're making an introduction for is somebody that we know and we trust and have the utmost confidence in as well.
Makes a lot of sense to me. It's great insights today. We're pretty much at time. I was really glad that you could join us on the show and share your insights and your perspective on what founders should be doing when they're going to get funded and how they should be pitching to VCs like yourself. Any other kind of final bits of wisdom or kind of insights you want to add, or anything, how people can get in touch with you if they're looking for funding?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So like I said at the beginning, I appreciate you having me. I've enjoyed our relationship and getting to know you more. Like I said, 46 VC, based out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're currently in our fundraise right now. So we're seeking LPs so that we have a solid pipeline of deals that we have on the burner and we're waiting for and ready. We're also meeting, daily with companies that we plan on investing capital in once our fund is funded. So it's a busy time. We're excited. It's exciting time to be in the venture capital space across the country. And we're particularly excited about the verticals and the areas that our fund's going to be investing in. Please feel free to reach out. LinkedIn, my email is on there. I'll take a call with just about anybody because I love meeting people. I love hearing stories. And more so, I love sharing what it is that we're doing, and I'm excited to continue to grow and continue to watch this venture capital ecosystem across the country grow as well.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, and that wraps it up.
Thanks, Carl.